Welcome to Foundations of Emo, hosted by Claire and Dani. Each episode we take one of our...
We tried so hard!
I felt a burp rising up my throat and then that distracted me as well.
Right, this is not funny. This is
serious business. Misery business. That's a different episode. Welcome to Foundations of Emo, hosted by Claire and Dani. Each episode... I'm laughing at my own voice. And Dani. Tonight on the weather. Showers of emo tears.
Sad songs.
Get your umbrellas, guys. We're crying. Welcome to Foundations of Emo, hosted by Claire and Dani. Each episode, we take one of our favourite bands and deep dive into their history and origins, reminiscing on our own emo roots along the way.
We made it!
15 takes later, we did the intro.
I'm crying. Why was that so funny? Welcome to week 4. No, episode 4. How was your week, Dani?
I have just come back from Germany. The jet set life is going to kill me. I got back last night and then I was in work today, so I'm a corpse of a person. I'm not even real. I went to Germany to see Bad Omens and then Bring Me the Horizon, who were supported by a Date to Remember. So I saw really good bands and had a really good time. And I went to Frankfurt, Stuttgart and Wiesbaden.
Oh, so, look at you, all German.
I've been practicing my pronunciations.
Did you do German in school?
No, but I did it on Duolingo in the lead up to my trip away.
It sounded pretty impressive.
Yeah. I didn't use it once while I was over there because I kept panicking. Even if someone started speaking to me in German, I knew how to say I don't speak German, but I panicked every time that I'd get it wrong. So I just went, nah.
I keep getting an email to say I made Duo sad because I haven't done my Spanish. Maybe we should do an episode in foreign language someday.
Yeah, that'll work out really, really well.
What did you think of Bad Omens live?
They were brilliant. I mean, Noah fell during the first song.
Oh yeah,
when he was saying like, and I fell in a concrete jungle, and he actually fell down. And now there's actually a bit of stuff. There's actually chat about it online because it was uploaded to TikTok and Instagram and everything else. And he came out and said something about like, why does everything have to be filmed these days? But people took it really wrong and were like, well, why don't you want us filming your concert? And he's like, I didn't say I don't want you to film the concert, but yeah. You know, that's just how it works these days. He was like, I was taking the piss.
Yeah.
But it was pretty funny, to be fair.
And you're now a Bring Me the Horizon fan?
I am now a Bring Me the Horizon stan. But that's foreshadowing for an upcoming episode.
Dun dun dun. Always with the foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Ominous foreshadowing.
Did you do research for this week?
For today? No. I've been in Germany. Have you not been listening to me talk for the past few minutes?
You've been in Germany and I've been in bed every night trying to get through the 1,500 albums there are.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I haven't even listened to the whole back catalogue because I'm a bad host.
You're kind of missing out. Some of it's quite good.
Yeah, like I intended to. There just literally wasn't enough hours in my days.
Hours!
God, I hate us.
Will we get started?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to episode 4, Funeral for a Friend, otherwise known as FAF. I'm going to refer to them as FAF. Or FAF. So, Funeral for a Friend formed in 2001, and if you thought our Paramore episode was confusing, you're going to need your pen and paper for this one too.
Great. That's what I need. My brain right now is totally on for that.
I'll try and simplify it as much as I can. So, two mates, Matthew Evans and Johnny Phillips, were in a band called January Thirst when their singer Michael Davies quit, so they asked Matt Davies, yes, same surname, no relation, to try it as vocalist. They then reformed as Funeral for a Friend. Any idea where the name came from?
They're at their friend's funeral? I don't know.
Well, that's grim. No, it's a song by Planes Mistaken for Stars. Can't say who they are. Yeah. One of Davies, Matt, not Michael's favourite bands.
Okay.
And I think as well, Ryan Richards, the drummer, was quoted somewhere saying like they didn't really intend for that to be their name. It was just something to call themselves, and then it kind of stuck. Probably didn't intend it to be as grim as it was. So they had a second guitarist, Kerry Roberts, who was Chris Roberts' brother, our good mate Chris Roberts.
Besties.
But he left. They replaced him with Darren Smith, not to be confused with Darren. And this lineup recorded 4 tracks at a studio called Mighty Atom Studios, and upon hearing them, Mighty Atom Records offered them a 2-album deal, which resulted in the production of their EP in 2002, called Between Order and Model. But oh wait! Before this EP was released, their bassist quit, and Matthew Evans and Johnny Phillips, who were the 2 who recruited Matt Davies, also quit. I bet they're raging now.
All the rage.
Oh my god, I love it! Who needs research? We just need your quick wit. So they then recruited Gareth Davies for bass. Yes, another Davies, again no relation, and Ryan Richards for drums. So side note, Davies is the second most common Welsh name.
I was just about to say, is Davies a really common surname in Wales?
Apparently it's very patriotic. I don't know what it means though, but anyway. So the band recorded for the whole summer of 2003, and in October of the same year, their first full-length album was released, Casually Dressed and Deep in Conversation.
What an album.
What an album. It's been described as one of the landmark emo records of the 2000s. It received tons of positive reviews, with NME calling it a fearsome debut. So I absolutely love this album.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Great album. I bought this album in a shop in Rathmines when I was with my dad, because I remember reading about it in Kerrang. And I also bought Stain's 14 Shades of Grey album at the same time, which I can't say I listen to now, but I do listen to Casually Dressed. It's a great album. It hasn't aged.
No, I find that like every couple of years I'll be like, oh, I want to listen to Funeral for a Friend, and I'll put it on and it never ages. It's always as good as the first time you heard it.
It's great. So oddly enough, they didn't do a concurrent release in the US, and they instead did a kind of mashup of their 2 EPs and released a mini album called 7 Ways to Scream Your Name, which I actually remember because I remember downloading some of the tracks off LimeWire. The Art of American Football, which is still a great song.
Oh my god, that is a tune.
Great song. It was weird though that they didn't release their album in the US at the same time. They obviously just thought they needed a bit more exposure first before they released it.
Yeah.
So Casually Dressed had 3 top 20 singles, and they toured extensively to promote it, opening for Iron Maiden in Europe, which was met with heavy criticism.
I was just about to say, I don't think they have the same fans.
No, and it's also not their fault. I mean, if you get offered to tour with Iron Maiden, you're hardly going to say no.
Yeah.
So they spent 2004 touring the US and trying to gain traction there, supporting Linkin Park and then headlining at Reading and Leeds, which would have been great. Side note, in 2012 they released this as a live album, but we all know live albums are crap.
Yep.
Nobody's going to
That opinion's not changing throughout any episode.
The band's second album came in 2005 in the form of Hours, and they spent most of this year and the following doing multiple tours in the UK and US to promote it. Hours to me is slightly more melodic, but definitely fits in with Casually Dressed.
Yeah, yeah.
Really like this album as well. There were 4 singles off it, and during production they used some slightly odd methods, including recording Matt Davies singing in a moving car for Drive and on a public street for History.
Was that necessary?
Yeah, it was like, which is cool and all, but literally what I was thinking was, I'm not sure it was necessary.
Yeah.
You don't listen to it and think, this sounds better than if you just recorded it in a studio.
Well, I mean, I didn't know. I feel like maybe I heard the public street thing for History before, like just as some tidbit. I don't know if someone told me or something, but I've never listened to it and been like, you can tell this is on a street.
Yeah.
And what a difference it's made.
I remember watching a documentary on Census Fail, and there was, can't remember which song it was, but they all went out and bought these really heavy boots from Walmart, and they all stood around a mic, and the song, it's like, na, na, so they were like stomping along to it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then when I listened to it on the album, I was like, I can't hear it. It just seems like such an odd waste of time, but there you go.
Also get a drummer who can make that noise. Is that not the point of them?
The drummer was one of the people standing around.
He was probably keeping the time.
Are you ready for the next bit?
Go on.
2007, the Ships album came.
The Ships.
Also known as Tales Don't Tell Themselves. I don't think I really got this album the way I got the first 2.
Yeah, when I think of You and a Friend, I always think of me and you being like, they were so good, and then they had
Ships
to write
happened.
a whole album about ships.
This was the band's first concept album. I didn't realise it was a concept album.
Yeah. Is it... Okay, can I guess? Just guess. That I didn't do any research. Is it about, like, them being on tour is like sailors being away from their families, and that's kind of the concept? That's why it's about ships and, like, being at sea and stuff.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm impressed.
Nailed it.
So according to Matt Davies, it's about a fisherman called David who lived in a little fishing town with his wife Eleanor and his daughter Isabel. But one day while he's out fishing, a big storm comes and leaves poor old David shipwrecked. He basically nearly dies and goes all delirious with his life flashing before his eyes, but decides he has to make it back to Eleanor and Isabel, so builds a little raft and makes it back to them.
I mean, there's a concept album, like how I explain the concept, and then there's like, you're giving people names and families, and it's like,
and that's me summarising. It was more extensive than that. I was like, whoa. But I wouldn't have got, yeah, I mean, obviously when you listen to it, you get it's about the sea.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So commercially, this album was successful, but it did have mixed reviews. They were definitely moving away from their screaming vocals, and I think trying something different with the whole sea theme. Some more interesting bits about the recording, though. Matt Davies used the same microphone to record this album as the microphone he used for Casually Dressed. Again, not sure what difference that made.
We use the same microphone for every episode of the podcast. Can you tell, guys?
And Ryan Richards recorded all... Oh yeah, this was bizarre. So he recorded all the cymbal parts of his drums separately from the rest of his drum parts. So when he played...
Did he wear them on his boots?
He used electronic cymbals when he was recording them, and then recorded the actual cymbals and then merged them together.
Okay.
I just don't know why that was necessary. But this is also the first album on which Matt Davies plays guitar. Little cutie. And this album reached number 3 in the UK in its first week, which I wouldn't have said it was that successful.
No.
Yeah.
Like in the UK singles or album charts or
album
whatever.
charts, yeah.
That's really weird.
Yeah. I had 2 singles released from it. Couldn't tell you what they are.
Because they're one of those bands, like if you say to someone who's not interested in rock music, I'm going to see My Chemical Romance, they know who they are. But if you say you're going to see Funeral for a Friend, they're like, what?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things about Funeral for a Friend is their fan base was so big locally. Like the first year they released their EP, like they were nominated for a Kerrang Award and it was voted for by the fans. So I think that's what made them such a success. Like there's no way it would have reached number 3 in the US. But in the UK, yeah, they were definitely successful. So the next year they planned on releasing another EP with 4 or 5 tracks on it, but ended up with so much material they released another full-length album called Memory and Humanity. So this album was a bit lost on me, and I think that's probably the reason why. It was released only a year after the Ships album, and because I wasn't getting that as much as their other material, I probably didn't pay much attention to this one.
Yeah, they kind of lost me with the Ships, and then I didn't come back for this one.
This album is actually closer in sound to Casually Dressed and has sort of like harsher vocals than Ships. So I've listened to it a few times in preparation for this, and I actually like it.
I like it. I was actually listening to it in the car on the way here. I have listened to it before, but just to refresh my memory, I was listening to it, and I was enjoying it.
Yeah, I really liked it. It's definitely like not one of those ones where it was a chore to listen to it for this, and I'd definitely go back and listen to it again. But it seems to have been lost on other people too, because it didn't do as well commercially as the previous album. It still did well, just not as well. This year, 2008, was also the year when band change. Gareth Davies, who played bass, left and was replaced by Gavin Burrow, who is still in the band today. So not a Davies, but another G. Gareth and Gavin. 2009 and 2010 saw the release of a compilation album and also an EP. So when I was reading about this, which I thought was quite interesting, they were signed to Atlantic Records, who had in their contract that at any stage they could release a compilation album. So they decided, hey, we're going to do this, and Funeral for a Friend were like, bit shit, nobody listens to them, why would you want to do that?
Fair.
So to be fair to them, they actually released like 4 new songs on it to make sure it was worth it for the fans. Take note, everyone else, nobody wants to listen to a shit compilation album.
True.
2010 also had another band change. So guitarist Darren Smith left, Gavin Burrow changed from bass to guitar, and a new bassist entered the scene, Richard Butcher. But it was 2011 when they released their 5th studio album, Welcome Home Armageddon. The title apparently describes, quote, the idea of patiently waiting for the end to arrive at your doorstep and give you a nice big hug, end quote.
I mean, there are many times when I have wished for the soft caress of death, so I get it.
You're so emo. So this album was described by a lot of people as being more pop punk compared to their other albums, and reviews range from calling it a masterpiece to calling it a shame.
Wow.
So harsh. I definitely moved away from them by the time this album came out. I would have been 21 and in college, and my dad probably stopped by me crying at this stage. So listening to it for the podcast was the first time I think I've listened to it from start to finish. And I don't think it's really that pop punk. Have you listened to it?
I feel like I have listened to it before, but I can't remember it, and I didn't get a chance to listen to it before today. Like, the name's really familiar, but I can't remember.
So essentially it's forgettable.
I'm sure I have, because I was meant to see them a couple of years ago and COVID put an end to that. and I was trying to listen to all of their music before the gig, so I think I was listening to everything, but it doesn't stand out to me. Yeah.
Well, this was the last album that Ryan Richards was on, and he was in the band since almost the very beginning. So the same year they released See You in Hell, which they referred to as an extended play, which basically had one new track and then acoustic and live versions of songs from Welcome Home, Armageddon. Again, I don't know why they feel the need to release all this material. So they took a break from releasing anything for a year, and in that time they managed to find another drummer, friend of the pod, Pat Lundy. He sounds super Irish. 2013 was the year of Conduit. This album feels like it goes back to their earlier days and adds on some heavier sounds, with Pat Lundy describing it as more current. Other reviews described the band as sounding invigorated and energetic, crediting the new drummer. And something which I thought was really cool was the album for this was done by a Welsh artist called Snowskull, who was revealed to be none other than the former singer of Faff, Matthew Evans. Which is cool. And he also does backing vocals on one of the songs on this album, which I think is cute.
Well, I think he's still involved, even though he left. But maybe he's just trying to cling on to the bit of fame that they got after he left.
But 2 years later, Funeral for a Friend released their 7th and final full-length album, Chapter and Verse. The 3 albums before this all had the same producer, but for this one they chose someone different. Again, I like this album and I've listened to it a good few times, but there's nothing in particular that majorly sticks with me about it.
As I said, I presume I've listened to it in preparation for the gig, but it doesn't stand out to me either. I don't know.
I read a review on punknews.org that I thought came to a good conclusion. They said that with each album they have tried to stick to their original gritty sound while still mixing it up with some more mainstream tunes, but by not sticking to some sort of uniformity they may have hurt themselves, because although they kept winning over niches, they lost some along the way as well, which I think is definitely true. I was lost there somewhere. Whatever they tried to achieve with this album, they'd already done it with Conduit, and so this feels like more of a repeat. And I'd struggle trying to pick which of these albums the songs came from, if you were to name one off this one and one off the previous album. And then in September 2015, they announced their split. Boo. Stating like it felt like the band had come to a natural end after 14 years together. They played a run of final shows in the UK, including shows where they played Casually Dressed and Hours in Full, which I'm pretty sure I was meant to go to. But for some reason I didn't. And I can't remember why. But however, all was not lost, because in 2019 they were united as a live band and have played a couple of shows since then with songs from their first 3 albums.
Yeah, so it was 2019, I think, when they announced their reunion is when I was supposed to go see them, and they weren't playing an Irish date, so I booked tickets to see them in Glasgow, and then obviously COVID, so it was postponed. And I had to change my flights, my hotel, everything. And then they announced a new date. So I sorted everything again, hotels and flights. And then there was another kind of wave of COVID. And I was like, I bet this isn't going to go ahead. So I cancelled the hotel and flights and that kind of thing. And I think it did go ahead that time. The second or third time it did go ahead. But at that stage, I was so unconvinced of it happening that I just didn't go. Because I was like, it'll just be a waste.
I'd actually love to see them again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I was going to go see them, because I was like, okay, no Irish shows. I was like, I'm going, I don't care.
Yeah. And some people have said that they think Matt Davies' voice is not as good as it used to be, which I don't agree with.
Well, I haven't really listened to any other newer stuff. Well, it probably sounds good on the album anyway, but live, I wonder.
Does it sound different?
Yeah.
Their more recent albums are definitely, they sound like demos again. It's it was similar to some of the kind of Fall Out Boy stuff, where it sounds like they've just literally gone back to basics. And you can hear Matt Davies screaming vocals, because obviously Ryan Richards wasn't there anymore. And they're definitely not as harsh as Ryan Richards. It kind of sounds like you or me screaming, to be honest.
I was thinking, when I was driving over, I was actually thinking about his voice, because if you hear a Fall Out Boy song, you know that's Patrick Stump, straight away. No one else sounds like him. And similar for My Chemical Romance, you can kind of be like, okay, that's Gerard. But with Funeral for a Friend, his voice is really good. He's got really strong vocals, but I don't feel like they stand out as much. Because I was listening to a song in the car that I don't really know, and I was like, if I heard this in a bar or out and about, would I know this was Funeral for a Friend? And I probably wouldn't.
They definitely sound like a number of other UK bands.
Yeah.
Although if they played something that was in the same vein as Casually Dressed, you'd have to know it's them, because that's such a standout album.
Yeah.
Definitely, probably still one of my favourite albums, like you said. We just go back and listen to it even now.
Casually Dressed on Hours. I go back and listen to them every couple of years. I'm like, gotta go back.
I don't think the Ships album is as bad as I thought it was originally.
It's not. I enjoyed listening to it today. I feel it's a bit more pop and it's a bit more commercial. Like more mainstream and less rocky than the first two.
Definitely. And even last week when you were over here and I just kept going around going, I stare to oblivion. Like, it's catchy.
Yeah.
But back then we probably didn't want catchy. You wanted him to talk about his eyes bleeding and all that kind of thing. Something really...
If his eyes ain't bleeding, I don't care. So what about the gig that we went to?
Oh, I was wondering when you were going to bring this up.
We've already posted about it on Instagram.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
The people want to know.
For people who didn't know, we're actually best mates with this band. Talk to them all the time.
In our head.
Us and Matt Davies, Pat Lundy and Chris Roberts. Matesos.
Yeah.
What year was that?
I think that was around 2015. I think it was when they announced their breakup because that was one of their final shows.
Oh. Who supported them?
I don't know.
It was in Fibbers, right?
It was in Fibbers.
And we were at the front, weren't we?
We were in the front row.
Yes! Oh, you are right, because I think they played mostly Hours. And Casually Dressed, obviously.
Yeah. I think they had announced their breakup and that's why it was such a big thing that they were going to play like kind of farewell gigs. And then they announced Fibbers, of all the places. If you don't know, Fibbers is like a tiny venue where local bands play. So the fact that Funeral for a Friend were going to play there is insane.
And also the way the stage is set up, you can't come in from the side, as in there's no like backstage. You literally have to go through the crowd to climb onto the stage. So it's very intimate and there's no barrier blocking you from touching the van. Not that I was doing that, but maybe.
But the gig was insane. It was so good. It was so small. The energy, like every single person in the crowd knew every single lyric.
Yeah.
Like everybody was a diehard fan who was there.
Yeah, and especially because they were playing those first two albums.
Yeah, and it was so tightly packed and so small that at one stage there was sweat dripping off the ceiling. No. But the band kept looking at each other. Do you remember this? They kept looking at each other and like laughing because it was so intense. Like they couldn't believe the reaction they were getting, or that like the crowd were so insane and so into it.
I do remember being very sweaty.
Yeah.
You might not be able to tell from that picture, guys, but I was very sweaty.
And I remember they played Alvarez from Hours. Yeah. Which is kind of a weird song for them to choose. And the crowd went insane and sang every single word. And Matt, I think it was Matt, like kept looking at the other guys in the band and just laughing in disbelief at what was happening.
I remember them playing End of Nothing, I think. I always get confused between End of Nothing and Recovery. But you know the song where it's the start of it is just like a guitar. It's like forgiving you. Which one's that? And
Recovery.
Oh, I remember that as well. As soon as like that first beat hit, everyone was like, ah! And it was just so good. So good. You need to come back, Funeral for a Friend. We'll get on to Matt, don't worry.
Call up our friends. So yeah, afterwards in Fibbers they played a DJ set.
Oh yeah.
And that's why they were hanging around the venue, and that's how we got talking to them.
Oh yeah, I forgot completely. I just thought, I don't know, I thought they came over to us, you know, we're like, we're these cool girls.
Aren't oh my god, despite my good intentions.
Aren't you that famous Irish band? Oh my god, we wanted to support you, but
yeah. But me and Claire had quite a few beverages.
A few.
And we got chatting to Chris. It was Chris, wasn't it?
So we got chatting to Matt and Pat first, and then Chris was kind of hanging around all shy and stuff. And we were like, oh hey, Chris. So for those of you who don't know, we mentioned this in one of the earlier episodes, but we covered Monsters when we were in DMGI. And it was great.
And we may have told him that after several beverages.
We were like, hey, we cover one of your songs in our band.
And he asked us which one, and we said Monsters, and he was
like, oh, that's like really strange because that's such a hard song to play.
Because it's in a weird key or something.
It's in a weird key. And I was like, is it?
We were like, yeah.
We totally knew that. And then I actually did read that Matt they don't play that song live very often because Matt struggles to sing it so much. But you didn't struggle, did you?
I didn't struggle one bit.
But he was...
Do you know what that is? Talent.
Matt Davis, take note. But he was so, like, God love Chris, he was so, like, genuine or, like, interested, you know, he's like, oh, wow, that's so cool, like, that's such a hard song to cover. We're like, uh-huh.
We're like, yeah, and then we added in these, like, screaming parts, and it's actually, like, really cool and probably better than your version.
And hence, they never talked to us again.
But I remember, because I think Matt and Pat were up, like, DJing at the time. You can't see me, but I'm doing a DJ motion, in case you don't know what DJing is.
What is DJing?
They were DJing at the time, and they were up on the stage, and they kept looking down and laughing because Chris was obviously, like, quite shy, and we were probably very animated in our conversation.
Yeah, why was it just the two of them? Where has everyone else gone?
Don't know.
I was going to say...
I just remember the lads on stage laughing at Chris because he was
Yeah.
probably, like, trying to escape us, and we were like, and then we're in a band.
He was definitely the shy one, just in a corner drinking his beer, and we were like sidling up to him. Hey, fancy seeing you here.
Let's talk about our band. I know you're in a band, but more importantly, we're in a band.
But it was great. I remember after that, like, you know, one of those nights where you're just so buzzed. You're like, we met the band.
Yeah.
We're totally friends with them.
This is what our life's going to be like now that once DMGI take off. We're always going to be chilling with the bands.
Exactly, even though at that stage, I don't think we existed. Did we?
Yeah, we did, because we told them we covered their song.
Yeah, but...
Oh, we'd already broken up.
Yeah.
We never officially broke up, to be
No,
fair.
we didn't.
We're actually still in the band.
Still going. We're actually have a run of shows planned for next year if you guys want to get tickets. But Pat Lundy, randomer for the band, I felt.
Yeah, I think he's a good bit younger than everyone else, isn't he? Or he looks it anyway.
I can't remember the name of the band he was in before. Was it First Final Remains or something? Something like that. But he learned all their songs in like a week so that he could audition for them.
Which so they were like, well, great, now we have to hire him.
But I do think when he joined, the sound went a bit different. Not in a bad way, but just different to poor old Ryan Richards.
I just remember when we saw them play that gig and Pat Lundy was there, we were like, who's that chap?
Yeah, he looks like a bit of a knacker, doesn't he? No offence, just with the hat.
Yeah, he didn't look like he fit in. He looked younger than everybody. We were like, who is that guy? And probably frantically Googled it.
Yeah, so we could get a picture with him and be like, hey, Pat.
Yeah, we're like, let's get a picture of them and then figure out who he is.
Do you remember, like I've also said this in one of the earlier episodes, but playing Bend Your Arms to Look Like Wings? When I say playing, I mean playing it on Spotify and dancing around the room to it. And your sister coming in and being like, you guys are so cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
Were we also bending our arms to look like wings? Because I feel like that's something we would have done.
No, I'm pretty sure like you had your mic in your hand and I had my guitar obviously not plugged in and we were just pretending to play it in your bedroom.
That sounds very cool, actually.
And
yes.
Lydia came in and was like, oh my god, you guys are so cool. We're like, thanks.
Yeah, we're
maybe
bad.
one day you could like be our roadie or something. You could work for us.
Do you know what? When I was listening to that song earlier on, I was like, did we cover this? And then I was thinking we didn't, but there was something in my head.
We air guitared it.
Same thing.
I was thinking when I was listening to the albums, they kind of had some good song names. Like not as long as Fall Out Boy-ish, but Bend Your Arms Look Like Wings. That's a good name. Mm-hmm. The Art of American Football. Also a good name. That's about it. Casually Dressed and Deep in Conversation. Also a good name. That's about it, guys.
10:45 Amsterdam Conversations.
That's a great song.
Can you tell me your song to repeat?
Do you not agree? Like, you don't look like you agree.
I do agree.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, my song to repeat is... Oh, I don't know what to choose because I don't want to go obvious. I'm going to say Rookie of the Year. Because I feel like it's that song when it comes on, you know instantly who it is and you just start singing along.
This sounds like...
The promise that he made left broken on the floor. Like, it can't be anyone else. And I'd never skip past it.
No. It's a great song.
What's yours?
10:45 Amsterdam Conversations.
Is it? Yeah. I was going to pick that as well. I was like, if I want to be like a bit unique about this, I'm going to say 10:45 Amsterdam Conversations.
Because I know that I had some kind of Funeral for a Friend DVD.
Why do you have all these weird DVDs?
I don't know, probably came free with something. That's how I discovered them, was Juno on like a
Kerrang!
DVD
CD
or something.
Yes.
Yeah. But I had some Funeral for a Friend one specifically, and I had a few music videos on it. And like I think I had Juno on it, but it had 10:45 Amsterdam Conversations, the music video for it. and I was like, what is this song? It's not on the album that I have. I was like, I love it. And I've loved that song ever since. And I've always said that's my favourite Funeral for a Friend song. So that was actually a no-brainer for me.
I
knew which one I
had
had to
a
pick.
video for it.
Yeah, like, not much happens as far as I remember. They're like, I feel like they're in an old house or something. I haven't watched it in probably 15 years, so I'm fully making this up.
Great song though. I agree with it. Right, song to skip.
I think this goes against everything from every other episode. I found that song to skip the hardest part. Usually I find that easy.
I agree.
Because I'm like, oh, I don't like that song. But there is no standout song that I don't like. But obviously I have to choose one for the sake of this. And I'm going to be real controversial here.
Oh no.
I'm going to say History.
Ah, Dani.
Because I just feel like...
No.
I feel like it's the placement on the album or something. Because I'm up and I'm like pepped and energy and I'm singing the songs and that comes on. It's just like a downer.
No.
But I do have a really good memory of them playing that in Fibbers at that gig and the whole room singing it and it actually being quite emotional.
Yeah.
So that makes me hesitant to say it. But when I'm listening to the album, I am kind of like,
What is the song that's in or around that song on the album and it's also kind of slow? Now it hurts too much to see. I'll probably skip that one. What is that song? Is it Drive? This could be a movie. Actually, now that I'm singing it, I quite like that song.
So tell your father.
Yeah, what is that song?
That you're mine, and I swear.
The song that I would skip is going to be no surprises that it's off the Ships album. The Sweetest Wave.
I don't even know which one that is.
Oh, it's just not good. Anyway, I was listening to it earlier because I was trying to pick a song that I need to skip and I was going through the titles and I was flicking through that album and I was like, I like these ones. I wouldn't actually skip a lot of them. Then it got to that and I was like, wait a second. The Sweetest Wave?
See, I think the thing is I haven't listened to any of their new albums or newer albums in depth. So there are probably much worse songs than History, but I just haven't discovered them yet.
You just haven't done your research.
But when I was listening to that album today and History came on, I was like, bit of a downer. Then I remembered the gig and I was like, oh, I can't choose that because the gig was so good. But listen, here we are.
What about Sunny on the end of that album?
I like those songs.
I think it's an odd placement, or it's just odd. I don't think it fits in with the rest of it.
I always get Sunny and Alvarez mixed up. I had to...
So do I, actually.
When I was listening to Alvarez today, I was like, okay, this is the one they played at the gig that everybody went crazy for. But I only knew it when I heard it. I couldn't remember whether it was Sunny or Alvarez, the name. Do you know anything personal about the band?
There is nothing personal about the band.
Isn't Matt Davies married to some French woman? That's about all I know.
Is he? Live research. Oh yeah, because they all changed their names to have fucking their wife's surnames. God, he's vegan and anti-fascist. That's good. What's avocado bookings? UK talent agency for Parkway Drive.
That must be who they're signed to, is it? Or
that is cute. And he resides in none other than... Oh wait, what's that flag?
Germany?
I thought so. I was like,
we've
Belgium?
come full circle, guys.
We have come full
Deutschland.
circle. Oh my god, he likes cats.
Well, now we have the history of Matt Davies. He resides in Deutschland. He likes cats. He's a vegan.
But there is no sign of his wife.
I don't know where I heard that years ago. He's married some French woman. And I think that's when he kind of like got less into the band because he got married and then he was like, no, my family.
That's exactly why your man Gareth Davies left the band, because apparently he lived in America. So he was travelling back and forth from America to be in the band. Which is some commitment. Not a sign here of any wife whatsoever. Not to say he doesn't have one.
If she's not on Instagram, she doesn't exist.
He's kind of cute looking, isn't he? Sorry, I can't say that.
Stop sexualising everybody.
I can't sexualise anyone, so it looks like he's...
You horny fucking bitch.
He's got a little ginger cat. There's no real controversy. I tried to find some controversy on them, and the only thing I found was that comment he made when people asked him about the Lost Prophets controversy. And he basically said, I have nothing to do with this, and that's that.
Fair.
Which is fair enough. I think people were just associating them because they were Welsh. Like, he must know something about this. He's also from the same country. But he didn't.
Just like you know everything Conor McGregor's up to.
Exactly.
Well, if you would like to know about our next episode, which I've already mentioned, I'm going to be talking about Bring Me the Horizon. Because, bitch, if you like controversy, let's go. Let's go.
I would say that'll be way juicier than this episode.
It's going to be pretty juicy.
I feel like this episode was wholesome. It was just about a nice band that we like. There was nothing...
From Wales.
There was nothing bad about them. Maybe that's their whole thing. There's nothing really... They're fine, like. They're grand. You know, we love the first 2 albums. Rest of their albums are grand. No controversy. Matt's a vegan. Likes cats. Likes dogs. That's it. Nothing else.
That's the episode.
So if you want a little nice podcast to fall asleep to, this will be the episode. Dani's episode next week will probably be...
Spicy.
Yeah. Super spicy. She's their biggest fan now.
I became a stan despite the fact that they're cancelled. And if you want to follow us, you can follow us on Instagram at Foundations of Emo, or on Twitter where we are Foundations Emo. And we post lots of cool stuff like pictures of us with Funeral for a Friend and pictures of Claire's cat Rupert.
We haven't done that yet, but we
will.
Yeah.
We'll do it now. And pictures of our cool outfits from Give 'em Hell clothing that we're wearing.
Give 'em Hell clothing.
Keeping us looking stylish.
We'll post a photo of us wearing them.
Yeah. We're about wearing a t-shirt by them right now, so...
Matching!
That's how we do it on the pod.
So we will talk to you in 2 weeks' time.
Bye!
Bye!